But I saw a lot of kids, like really young kids. They just had their parents' phone and it was almost like a pacifier. But this phone is playing with our minds and the neuroplasticity of the mind that we know of. And it's starting to lay down like different connection points that are firing together. And it's causing us to have an addiction to the phone that it is taking away from our interpersonal connections. I think that's a big thing that people play back to me when they come to me and say, "Hey, give me an assessment of my phone health." I just believe that we have the power to do that. Like we can find a way past this divide, this back and forth that we're in. One, if we get off of social media a little bit more, scroll less, and just and connect with each other and just see each other and like try to find out about each other in different spaces. I think we can do this. Um,
Absolutely.
and and I say that because I've seen it happen.
Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Hey, health junkies. On this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I have my pal Michael O'Brien on. He is the creator of the app Pause, Breathe, Reflect, short meditations for busy people. And gosh, he's got some good stuff going on in there. Now, he's also a qualified meditation teacher, executive coach, and endurance athlete. He's a biker. Good dude. Now, he loves helping people accomplish hard things through mindfulness. He's a survivor of a horrific near death cycling accident called his last bad day. And he's on a mission to help us have a better relationship with our technology and, in particular, our phones. And he's actually doing phone audits. Interesting stuff because hey, let's face it, you go out these days and most people are attached to that phone. And I have been that way too. And it's not cool. You miss out on so much in life. So we're going to talk about what we're missing out on. We're going to talk about life in general. We're going to talk a little bit about business, entrepreneurs, and how social media can really jack with everyone. So, all right, let's reintroduce you to Michael O'Brien. Hey, health junkies. I have Michael O'Brien back on because you know what? One podcast with this guy was just not enough. And I've been following him and really digging what he's saying and what he's up to with his podcast and also just on Instagram. So, Michael, welcome back to the Health Fix podcast.
Well, thank you very much. I am psyched to be here. Round two, the
Yes.
sequel. We're going to try to prove all the myth around the sequel is never as good as the original, except for Godfather 2. So we're going to do a great 2.0
2.0.
today.
2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at some of the things where you have on social media, and the biggest thing that caught me and why I first wanted to bring you on, and then second from us just chatting before we hit record, oh, the scroll less, live more concept, and the fact that what's coming out on social media right now is driving you and I both nuts with all of the blatant like quoting of research that has let's say little minimal to no research on certain things and then taking it for like the end all be all in folks.
Yeah. So, yeah. So how common is that today? That's crazy. But I did something blasphemous. I, I just had it with like some of the Instagram stuff. So I deleted all of my posts.
Whoa.
Yeah, so the grid that you see now with it's just basically nine tiles, nine photos, and it's all yellow. And there's one in the middle that says scroll less, live more. That was after deleting all like 1,200 posts. And some people, it was sort of like one of those co-promote posts, like whatever we call those. And so when I deleted it, it sent a message to the other person, even though like that was like 6 months ago. And they were like, "What's up? What are you doing? Like, are we still good?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're still good. I'm just trying to like cleanse the whole thing." But admittedly, I still put up a story or two.
Yeah.
But that's just one thing that you go to and then you hopefully you pop off. But this whole this really hit me last year, and I think last year we started to have a bigger dialogue. Maybe it was because of Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation that came out just more information about what our phones are doing to us and how we're living with them and how they're sort of running our lives. Gosh, I remember having a BlackBerry. Did you have one of those?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
they were so square.
they were so
Full of
square. And my
buttons.
kids, my kids loved Brick Breaker and the game, and I love the tactile sense of like the
Yeah.
keyboard. And I was sort of like a bah humbug on the iPhone when it first came out. I was like, why would you need that? Like, I like my BlackBerry. I don't need this phone. And sure enough, I got rid of the BlackBerry. I got a phone with like everyone else. But back then, there was no social media on the phone. There weren't any apps. There was texting. That was it. That was about it. Um, but now, fast forward to 2025, there's a whole bunch, and we're spending so much time on our phone. And last year, I started doing these smartphone wellness checks where I ask people a series of questions about their relationship with their phone. Because so many people are coming to me, and it's a filter group of people who, like, I want to spend less time on my phone. I want to scroll less and live more. And I want to spend my time doing other things that bring me joy. And I so feel it when I get someone's survey back, just the frustration of like this thing that you was a great, like, I consider our phones a good toolbox.
Sure.
And then having the right apps are like the tools you put in your toolbox. And a lot of people will come to me and say, well, you have an app, like isn't that ironic that you have an app and you're telling people to get off the phone? I'm like, no, that the Pause Breathe Reflect app that we talked about the first time we chatted, that's a tool.
Mhm.
That's a tool to, like, give yourself some space, calm things down, just like any other tool. And we just got to be wise about how we're using those tools, and yeah, trying to get off of our phone more and connect with each other and connect with ourselves and connect with our nature. And so, yeah, so I took all my Instagram posts down. I don't post there anymore, just in a small, like, passive aggressive way of like trying to tell people, like, just stop scrolling your life away. There's so much to life to be lived, and it's not necessarily always on your phone.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how many times that maybe you've been in a restaurant or and honestly, I don't eat out that much, but I went out to eat over the holidays with my in-laws.
Yeah,
And we sat down, we're all talking. None of us are on our phones. I look over to the side. There's a couple that sat down, and both of them are literally on their phones practically through their whole dinner. I look to the left, and there's a couple at the table playing a game on the phone. And I'm like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
happened to just sitting and talking? Like, what
Yeah, and
happened?
then the kids have the phone as a babysitting tool, and it seems like every kid, the parent, and this isn't to shame any parent out there, it's more friendly advice. If you're going to give your kid the phone or the iPad, maybe some like earphones, because we don't need to hear everything little Johnny's listening to, just my 2 cents.
Right.
But I see that all the time too. Like, I was doing a booth for a nonprofit. It's all around the Global Day of Unplugging, which is March 7th and 8th of this year. So I had a booth at a farmer's market in the local area, and just trying to encourage people to, like, every now and again, just put your phone down, unplug, connect with nature, right? But I saw a lot of kids, like really young kids, they just had their parents' phone, and it was almost like a pacifier. But this phone is playing with our minds and the neuroplasticity of the mind that we know of, and it's starting to lay down like different connection points that are firing together, and it's causing us to have an addiction to the phone, that it is taking away from our interpersonal connections. I think that's a big thing that people play back to me when they come to me and say, hey, give me an assessment of my phone health. They see it as a barrier to connection.
Yeah.
And so many people are using it because they do feel lonely.
Mm.
And so it's a way to connect. But it's also, so I see that. And I don't think the phones are all bad. Again, it's a toolbox. It depends on what you put into your toolbox. but so many people use it as a cure for loneliness. But what it's actually doing is, I think it's amplifying our loneliness because it's making us disconnect from each other and disconnect from our true nature. I think there's something special that we learn about ourselves when we get out into nature,
Yeah.
and we're doing it less and less often. I worry about our overall health because the technology is there. They know, the people designing all this, they know what to do to entice us to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to do through the work I'm doing is, hey, just scroll 10% less, scroll 30% less. In that time, do something that brings you a little bit more joy. Connect with friends, read, go for a hike, crochet, whatever it is. Like, just do something that brings you a little bit more creative joy.
I agree. I agree because I'm sure you've seen this too in a lot of your coaching clients that with social media and just researching things online, people are getting themselves in twisted loops about, well, this guru says this and this guru says that, but this person, and then next thing you know, now we've got anxiety because they're thinking about like, well, this is my health issue, but all these different things are happening, all these different things. They're saying this, they're saying that.
I think that is a huge problem when you look at health and wellness in particular. So we're sitting down right after New Year's. So a lot of people have New Year's resolutions, and obviously health and wellness and fitness are always some of the top resolutions.
Hmm.
And then there's a group of people who are like, screw this. It's all set up for failure. I'm not going to do any. And I think that is based on just past failure because of some of the confusion in, in the marketplace, because it is sort of a marketplace where snake oil salesmen are trying to sell you the latest hack. So, case in point, this goes back like 8 years ago. There was a story by Vox, VOX, and the headline was so, it was the tantalizing headline. The clickbaity headline was, the research is in, or the science is in. Exercise isn't the best option to lose weight. Right? It's gotten 13 million views over the last 8 years.
Jeez.
And, and so what I found out, like going through some of the comments, is a lot of people thought they needed to give up on exercise.
Right.
And, and that's really not the main point, because exercise can be really beneficial as a tool, as part of an equation, along with nutrition and proper sleep and some of the basics to help us achieve a better weight if that's our goal. And also it can help with mental health improvements, mood. It can also help shape that conversation that we have with ourselves, that we can do hard things when we do something that is a bit strenuous. So, but everyone like tapped into it, like, oh wow, like, oh, exercise is not needed.
Right.
And it's so misleading. And we were talking before we hit record, but there was another podcast. I think podcasts, not yours and not mine, of course. But I think there's a lot of like bigger podcasts that have a lot of these big gurus on.
Yeah.
And these big gurus do share some helpful tips, but they also, I think, throw in a lot of garbage. And they say it with such confidence that it's easy to fall victim to everything that they're saying. And then you pull away and like, okay, I got to do exactly what what they recommend to do. So case in point, there's one big thought leader said, there is nothing, and he doubled down, nothing, no amount of cardio, no amount of strength training can strip the fat off the body like 3 to 6 minutes in a cold plunge. And that there's no data that suggests that that's true. So someone could do a cold plunge and feel really good about it. That's awesome. I like a cold shower. That's pretty cool. It's refreshing. It's invigorating. It certainly wakes you up in the morning. And I think it does help shape that conversation. Like, I can do something hard. And if that sets you up for the day, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But the original study was from 2015 from the Netherlands, and it was all about work absentee rate. And it showed that people that were exposed to cold plunging, cold showers, they had a 29% reduction in sick days, if you will. So people then made the leap that somehow this cold plunge, this cold shower helps with our immune system.
Hmm.
But it might just be like correlation, not causation. And so but now there's a whole bunch of other health benefits that people say a cold plunge will do, but the research isn't there. And so, and we don't talk about the counterindications. If you have like a cardiovascular risk factor, a cold plunge can be really dangerous for someone, but none of the gurus really mentioned that. So I think it's like this discernment and this care, I think, is needed more so as we go into 2025. And with, regardless of how one feels about politics, Zuckerberg basically saying, I'm not going to fact check stuff on Facebook and Instagram anymore. So I think we're going to go into a period of time where it's going to be more of a Wild West and harder to understand like what's real, what's not, what's based in some science, and what's sort of a study of six people that it doesn't really apply to that particular person. So my encouragement to folks is just look at all this not with cynicism or skepticism, but just a little bit more of a discerning eye or a discerning ear, and take more responsibility, which takes work, but more responsibility in managing our own health.
A- Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think for so many people, we've lost the ability to discern, but we've also just kind of given our power over to everyone else for our health. And and of course I am always on the mantra of question everything,
Yeah.
question me, question, just question everything and really deciding for yourself, like you said, discerning for yourself, is this something that's good for me? Do I like this? Does it feel right to me? And, if it feels right, it feels good, great. Okay, works for you. But we don't want people to get, like you were saying, really disappointed, because in chronic illness and in post accident recovery, there's a lot of things that can get us really twisted up in the brain, thinking we're failing at everything.
Yeah. And when we're failing at everything, like again, going back to what I've mentioned, this conversation that we have with ourselves, because we're all talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if we try to go after what every guru says, and it's not really structured to ourselves, it's not customized, then we can set ourselves up for failure, not success. And then when we hit failure, instead of learning something, it can lead us down the rabbit hole, and it changes that conversation that we're having with ourselves. And so then it becomes like, none of this works. I can never do any of this. I can make not everything anything stick. Screw it all. I'm not going to do anything. And you give up, you disengage. And I never want people to like lose hope and lose belief in themselves, because I believe we can find a way forward for each individual person. It just needs a little tinkering, a little adjustment. So, if someone is out there on a plant-based diet or a vegan diet or a keto diet and it works for them, that can be really cool for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And now we have to like experiment with ourselves. Like, hey, how how am I going to do on this particular diet? Like, what are my belief systems? What are my first principles? What are my values? How do I make this all align? So it does take more responsibility on our part, but that responsibility can lead to, I think, a greater likelihood for success. And then when we lay down moments of success, that conversation that we have with ourselves begins to change. Like, oh, we can do this. I can do hard things. I can get a little bit further outside my comfort zone. I can take on this challenge. And when we think about life, that's part of like living a very fulfilled life, like finding out about who we are. And if we give the car keys over to every guru and every expert, and they tell their story in such a convincing, compelling way, we've we've given our agency over to them.
Mhm.
Now they're in control, and I want people to take back more of their control, more of their lives, because I think a more fulfilling life is right there when people do.
And definitely links in with the scrolling less too, because like you said, the tech folks are smart. They know exactly what they're doing to hook you in. And that's why a lot of my Instagram stuff probably doesn't get views because I'm not doing the algorithm. I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of folks out there that are putting content out. And when you work hard to put out content, you you hope that people will like it. It will resonate with people. And so then we check the stats, what what gets clicks and likes and what doesn't. And then again, we go and judge ourselves like, oh, and stuff. I think my stuff is pretty good, but no one's liking it. Like the whole thing and the algorithm behind the scenes is at play because you're not being edgy enough. Like my goal for 2025 is that boring becomes the new edgy,
I love it.
right? Boring becomes the new edgy. And when it comes to health and wellness, I have these like like uh white t-shirt things. We'll call them things steps. Because here's what we know. Like a white t-shirt never goes out of style.
True.
Like 70s, 80s, 90s, the aughts, current day, you compare a nice white t-shirt with a shorts, pair of jeans, right? You can wear that anywhere. No one's going to judge you. You're going to be maybe not fashion forward, but you're going to look pretty good, right?
Mhm.
And the white t-shirt steps are like getting good sleep, moving your body, strength training. Your older self will love you for it. A little flexibility, your older self will love you for it. Eat like real food. Have good gut health. You do that whole gut microbiome thing. Make sure your mindset, your mindfulness practice is up to snuff. You're having a good conversation with yourself. Practice a little gratitude. Who doesn't want a little vitamin G, right? Screen less time, so less time on the phone, right? And then the value of community. Like those are white t-shirts. And they have never gone out of style. But the latest funky fruit from East Bajibis, like that we're supposed to get for our smoothie or our acai bowl or whatever, like that's not the ticket. Like it's vitamin C is vitamin C and we need it, right? Or like this particular workout, like some of the basics of white t-shirts, like if we could just stick to those and do them consistently, then we're going to be in front of most people, especially the people that are going after the latest hack. And I'm hoping boring can be the new edgy in the new year.
I I
We'll see what
love
happens.
I'm all for boring and I'm beyond like yes I used to get pretty upset about like why are my things not landing why are not hitting but at the end of the day I'm like you know what people who are interested and will who come to realize that like boring is the new edgy and that literally all these things they've been chasing this supplement this magical thing like
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jenny, I was right there with you. Like early on, like I was never, when I left my corporate role to do what I do today, I wasn't on social media at all. I wasn't on Facebook, wasn't, on Instagram, none of those things. I was on LinkedIn, but it was like, I didn't, I had been at my one company for 18 years. So there was no real reason to go on LinkedIn. That's what I thought. But then when you leave corporate and you're like, oh, you got to have a social media presence to let everyone know who you are, right? So I got caught up in that. Like, I think I'm putting out good content. I don't have enough views? And, I kept on constantly checking my phone. So, there are
right
periods of my life where you know, I wasn't really living what I'm preaching today, and but I was so dissatisfied with the whole like grabbing my phone, checking this post. Is it taking off? Is it not? Signing up for courses on how to go viral, like for $397, like those all that stuff. I got caught up in all that stuff in the very beginning. And I was so unhappy. And I was basically like, I got to a point really through the pandemic was like, sort of F it.
Yeah.
Like I, I'm gonna, I'm gonna write my stuff. I'm gonna put out my blog. I'm gonna connect with people on email. I'll put some stuff on LinkedIn. Um, and uh, the right people will find me.
Yeah.
The people that resonate with what I'm trying to share with the world will find me. And I'm not going to continuously chase on social media for like that magic moment because I want to spend more time doing other things, like hanging with my daughters and hanging with my wife and getting on my bike and
Right.
breathing
Right.
fresh air and just chilling out. Like I don't want to be always trapped to my phone. And again, I love the phone. I have an app for your phone, so I'm not a phone hater, and I don't think everyone's going to go to a flip phone, and I don't think everyone's going to just throw it all out and go analog and go off the grid. That's not life today. That's not realistic or practical. But we can take steps to better understand how we're using our attention and where we're placing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I got to a point where like I had no life. I was constantly looking at stats and I wouldn't hire anybody to do it because it was like thousands of dollars a month. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. But one of the things I'm curious about, and I know you work with executive coaching and folks that do have their businesses and are either solopreneurs or folks like this, I can't help but wonder how much of us have made ourselves sick with all of this trying to keep up with the algorithms and how much life we've missed out on. Because I know I certainly have missed out on a lot of life.
I think a whole bunch, and again, I'm getting these smartphone wellness checks from folks, so I see some of their answers. Like, again, I'm getting a filter group. So people are raising their hand saying, "Hey, Michael, I want to do this." So that it's not everyone. There's
Right.
some people out there that's like, "No, I love being attached to my phone." Right. So that's cool. All right. That's cool. But everyone that does it comes to me and says, I want to spend less time on it. I need to change the relationship with it. And yeah, really since 2007 and 8. So I think that was an inflection point for us culturally here in the US. We had the big financial collapse, the economy tanked, a whole bunch of people left corporate life and started their own business.
Yeah.
It also happened a couple other times from that point to current day. And there's a whole bunch of solo entrepreneurs, consultants, coaches, people running their business, and everyone's like sort of chasing it and really the grind, the hamster wheel, and all trying to get noticed. And they'll consume Gary Vaynerchuk's content. Gary's like, "Yeah, keep on doing it, post all the time, just post 5 times a day, post 10 times a day, just keep on doing it and believing that that's the formula." And that may be the formula for Gary back when he first started, when this all first started, but it may not be the right recipe for folks today. And everyone's a little bit different, but we grab on to the thought leaders, the gurus, and say, well, this is what they did. I should do it exactly how they've done it
Yeah.
or how they do it. And I think it is making a lot of people sick with a lot of worry. And we know what the phone can do for teenagers, especially teenage girls.
Oh, absolutely.
This whole idea of being self-critical and self-harm and depression. And I think us adults are also susceptible to that. And again, I see it. It's like people are on Instagram or on LinkedIn putting out content and always trying to get more eyeballs. And they're seeing everyone living their best life because it's all filtered. None of the crappy moments are shared on Instagram. And I think a lot of people do fall into this like, oh, my life isn't as good as Stephanie's life or, Andrew's life. And I should be doing more. The answer always sometimes comes back to like, I got to do more. I
Right.
got to produce more. To your point, I should hire someone. Now they're out a lot of money, and there's always someone out there who'll be like, "Hey, we have a guaranteed method.
Always. Always.
Like,
And you get sucked in.
Garrett, yeah, you get sucked in. You're like, oh, maybe that's the shortcut. Maybe that's the hack. And I will say that probably for a small percentage of people, that guaranteed formula probably does work. Like it works for them. But for the masses, I not I have my doubts how well it works for everyone else. But yeah, we can go so easily get sucked in because it's our livelihood. We want to do well. A lot of people come from a very genuine place in their heart that they want to help, they want to support other people. I know you do. I know I do, in
Mm.
others. And but there's a lot of fear involved in all that. Like, am I seen? Am I valued? Am I wanted? And it can really drive some unhealthy behavior. And my encouragement to people is just like hit pause on all this as we start the year, take a few deep breaths, and then really reflect on like what you want and how you want to spend your time and where you want to place your attention. Because our intentionality in terms of how we approach life and what we pay attention to will drive how happy we are or how fulfilled we are. And I think we're at this point in life where I think we should take a step back and really decide how we want to go.
It's it's so important. It's so important. And I think for so many people too, entrepreneurism and health, I see it like trying to make it in a business is very similar to trying to improve your health. It's kind of like neck and neck. It's a job. Your health's a job. Your job's a job, and trying all the different things, getting sucked into, miraculous weight loss programs and all this stuff. I mean, it's just like, man, what if we did less courses and we
Yeah.
spent
Yeah.
more time outside?
Yeah. It just are fewer like 75 hard challenges. Like, and again, like some people do the 75 hard and it works for them. And I'm like, if it works for you, cool. But I just, again, use discretion before you do something like that. But I do think like a whole bunch of folks, entrepreneurs, go in with great intentions. I think I have something that can really help, want to help. But the business development side of the business, all the other stuff, that's what drives like a lot of stress. And then people find out like it can be lonely as a solo entrepreneur
Mhm.
and they don't have a sense of connection. Some people go out and create community, which is great, which is needed. We need it. We thirst for that feeling of belonging. But I do I think it's something that's not talked about a lot, but there's the way the gig economy has changed from corporate life to now freelancers, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs. It can be a very lonely lifestyle, and it can be one where we feel like we're always on the hamster wheel, and not a lifestyle that really promotes like overall really great health.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, I see it, I saw it myself. And I also see it in a lot of folks who are in the health industry. So we're trying to help people while quite sick
Yeah.
in many aspects, which is not good for anyone, which is why I love that you have community around pause, breathe,
Yes. I
reflect.
know.
Let
We're rocking all the gear on the video, which is really cool.
I had to. I love this hat, by the way. Even though you technically gave it to my husband, I stole it from him.
That's cool. I firmly endorse stealing from spouses when they have good clothing, hats and otherwise, so like I think go for it.
I'm definitely well, it's been the last couple weeks I've been rocking this, but in particular today all day. And then folks who are watching on YouTube and
Yeah, Ripple
Rumble, Ripple of
kindness.
Kindness,
Yeah.
got it on here today too.
So I have the news our new sweatshirt, which is choose compassion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's all embroidered here, and I'm using like as we sit, we obviously are watching in horror the LA fires. So this is a fundraiser. So when people get this, I'm donating all the profits to the California Fire Foundation. So
Nice.
you get something that's really, really well made, so cozy, all made in the US, embroidered in the US. So really cool sweatshirt with a message around choose compassion, which I think is a message that probably needs more attention this year. And then all the profits go to help the people who are trying to keep us safe. And it's one way to do something because I'm the full country away being here in New Jersey. So I wanted to try to do something to help out. So this is the way.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
saw that definitely. So we'll make sure, guys, we link that over at my podcast notes at drjkrausenD.com. Now, you got to tell us, we got to go back into the community because this
Yeah.
is the one thing I hear over and over and over again from my clients is like, hey, I'm just missing out on like-minded folks. I'm missing out on folks that are looking for like peace in their life, scrolling less, all of that. And
Yeah.
plus, you guys have a great community. So tell us about it. I've joined in sadly a few times, and I intend in 2025 to hang out a lot more. Now, tell us
Awesome.
about what you guys are up to and membership versus like the whole thing.
Yeah, so through the Pause, Breathe, Reflect app, and what's cool about the app is that people can pay what they can. So most of the other apps out there will have a set price. So $99 a year, can't afford it. Too bad for you. And I don't want any barriers to get in the way of people having a practice that creates some space so they can be like more thoughtful. I think we just what I'm trying to do is like create some space, set your intentions, be thoughtful about how you want to show up, be thoughtful about what kind of ripple you want to put out in the world, like ripple kindness, ripple love, all that good stuff. So we have a pay what you can model, so people can pay as little as $1. For the first year, it's $1, and through our app, we have live practices. So what I try to do, because this is a big thing, I firmly believe like having a sense of like coming into a space where you can be with like-minded, like-hearted people is so important current day since we feel so disconnected. So I do a minimum of 2 practices a week where people pop in on Zoom. You can have your camera on, you can have your camera off, you can share your perspective, you can listen. So, like, no obligations, no expectations. I just want to create a space for people to come in. I lead a short meditation. Sometimes I'll do a little teaching around the principles of meditation, what it is, what it isn't. And then we give some space for people to share what might be on their mind or touching their heart. Chat works. And it's a half an hour. Sometimes we go longer, but a lot of people will come in, they'll do the meditation and they'll slide on to the next thing, which is totally cool. Some people stay a little bit longer. They want to share, and we've been doing it for years, and it's
Yeah.
and what's really cool is that people have connected with each other. And this was always a big thing for me. Like as a cyclist, obviously a bicycle wheel is, one of my framings, right? You got the hub, you got all the spokes. And for most like communities out there, especially like this whole guru expert thing, you have the sage on the stage, like the big guy or gal. And then all these spokes are all the people in their community, all connected to that person. And I never wanted that. Like I was like, yeah, I want to be connected to all of our members that are part of Pause, Breathe, Reflect. But from my perspective, I'm like, all of you are amazing. And if you're only connected to me, you're missing out because there are amazing people in this world doing amazing things, and you should know each other. And so, what we try to do is take some steps for people to get to know each other and make a connection. And it makes the world feel a little bit smaller. And so, as we go through life, as we go through, again, like dealing with the LA fires, knowing that some of our community members are there, and we we just can be together and know that we're going through something because we're all going through something.
Mm.
And it's so humanizing. And I don't think there's any other meditation app out there that does as many live practices per week like we do. Because I just didn't want my app to be like you by yourself meditating. Now, for some people, that's their thing. That's all they want to do. And that's awesome. But I do think there's some value in coming together and practicing together as well. And I wanted to at least create that option for people. And so when we do loving kindness meta meditation on Friday, we all come in. It's great, and we put a good vibe out there that may not radically change the world in that moment, but it feels like we're taking some action to make a difference because it will change how we show up for the rest of the day and hopefully through the weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in the sessions I've joined, I've enjoyed it thoroughly and definitely going to be joining now because I feel like it's that time in life for me to also have community with like-minded folks. And yeah, the meditation in groups just seems to be better for me
Yeah,
than on my own. And I loved hearing some of the stories from your folks too. So I'm looking forward to joining in. So folks, you'll catch me there too.
yeah,
And
that's awesome. Yeah, no, everyone's welcome. I try to open. What I say is like the door is always open. It's never locked. It's how we. Well, I shouldn't say that about our own household. Like I don't know, but like that. But like doors open, it's unlocked, and regardless of like who you voted for, where you live, how much money you make, who you love, who you pray to, if you pray, like all those different levels, all those different choices. I don't care. I like when I rode my bike across the country, I met so many wonderful people and we just connected like human to human. And and we and we can see that in each other. Like when we go through like hard moment, no one's sizing you up and asking you a whole bunch of questions about, who you prayed to, who you voted for. And this goes back to like the day of my accident, all the emergency response personnel, all the EMTs, the bell rang and they answered the call and they saved my life. And they didn't ask me a whole bunch of questions to size me up. They just saved my life. I could have seen the world completely different than they did, but they still did their job. And I just believe that we have the power to do that. Like we can find a way past this divide, this back and forth that we're in. One, if we get off of social media a little bit more, scroll less, and connect with each other and just see each other and like try to find out about each other in different spaces. I think we can do this. Um,
absolutely.
and and I say that because I've seen it happen. So I know it's possible. It's within us. We're good people. There are a few people that are just trying to create some shenanigans, but they're trying to, in a lot of ways, stir the pot and be edgy to make money off of us. Like our divisiveness is their game. So we can say no to that and say no. Like, yeah, we differ, say politically, but we can still agree on so much. And let's focus there and let's try to help each other out. Um, Regardless of like who the political leaders are or which sport team is winning or like, any of those things, just like find a way to see each other because I think we all desperately want to be seen and heard and appreciated. So
Mm.
let's get to that work. Let's do that work this year, and we can all wear white t-shirts while we do it.
I love it. I love it. We got to get back to the one love thing. That's what I keep saying. I'm back to the one love, living above
Yeah,
all the BS that's out there.
yeah, yeah. No, that's the charge I have in this year. Just like trying to help people change that relationship with their phone, come into our community, learn a very practical, relatable. You know this because you've been at them. Like I try to approach mindfulness now in a wooey way.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna do practical, relatable. Like we can make this work. We're just creating like little micro breaks throughout the day so you can be intentional. And I think if we're intentional and thoughtful, and we can give each other some grace, then we're going to have better communities. We're going to be able to solve problems better. And that's what I hope for us. And I'm going to try to do all that I can to make that possible for us, however I can do it.
I know you'll do it. I know you'll do it. I'm definitely backing you up on it, and we'll definitely be promoting it here at my podcast, my business as well. Within my actual patients, we're going to be talking more about you too, because I think we need some of this stuff to help folks get to the next level with their health. So, man, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to promo the pause, breathe, reflect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for having me on. 2.0, I think we challenged The Godfather. I think it was pretty good. 2.0.
I think so too. The sequel. We got
Thumbs
it.
up.
Thanks again.
Hey, fellow health junkie, thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.